Good morning and welcome to Beyond Common Sense. Well, once again, I'm starting to memorize. I have to say, I fell off that wagon for a while. Life just gets busy, doesn't it? So I've been wanting to memorize Psalm 126, unless you think that I'm just a memorizing genius. It's only 6 verses, and I've just tried to work on verses 1 through 3 today, which gave me lots of encouragement that I'd like to share with you. You know, we all have days like today for us where a bunch of little things just try to topple you over. It reminds me of the game Tippet. I don't think they make it anymore. In fact, I was looking on Amazon to see if it was available. I saw Exploding Kittens, Throw the Burrito, which I have to admit is kind of a fun game, Bears versus Baby, and yes, my favorite title, Shoot the Poop. Oh, where are we going in this world? Anyway, if you remember the game Tippet, there were 3 spokes on a tripod, which were balanced on a stick. And then there was a longer stick placed in the middle of that tripod, and on the top of it was a little fellow balancing on his nose while holding on to 2 rings. The whole object of the game was to not let him fall off of his perch while you're trying to put different colored discs on the spokes. Sometimes life seems like that game. Things just pile up, just little things that just want to push us right off the edge. It reminds me of Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 15. Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. Now, if you read Song of Solomon as though it is talking about the relationships of a young couple, you might get a better idea of what I'm talking about. What exactly does this verse mean? Well, I go to my friend David Guzik in Blue Letter Bible. He gives me some wonderful thoughts about these little foxes. And so in a relationship, it's talking about the little troubles that are bothering their relationship. And he quotes a man named Glickman, who I don't know, but he gives us 4 little statements about what those little foxes may be that are trying to destroy our relationship. Number 1, uncontrolled desire that drives a wedge of guilt and mistrust. Number 2, mistrust and jealousy that strains or breaks the relationship. 3, selfishness, ouch, and pride, that refuses to acknowledge wrong and fault. 4, an unforgiving attitude that will not accept an apology. Wow. Guzik goes on to say this: it is helpful to remember the words of this verse. Catch us the foxes. The job of catching foxes is teamwork. One partner in the relationship can't expect the other to do it all. I don't need to tell you what problems we had this morning, what our little foxes were. And they were truly little foxes, nothing major. But isn't that usually how it happens? But as Tom went out the door to go to prayer meeting, then I have to wonder, maybe there's the problem. If you step out to try to do something for the Lord, wow, Satan just lets loose those little foxes, and some big ones too, doesn't he? We found that out because this week we were doing VBS. Was it a huge VBS? No. But God reminded me that Jesus gives us the example of the shepherd that goes after the one, leaves the 99 and goes after the one. That was a rebuke to me this week. Anyway, so there are little problems. But I was reminded of the little guy in the top of the contraption in that game. I told him that he was that little guy. For whatever reason, God has really filled his plate with a lot of little foxes, which actually probably aren't really small to him. Some of them are actually just nagging issues that we can't seem to find a solution to. And if you have that situation, that problem that's like in the back of your mind that you just, maybe you're not thinking about it all the time, but it's there. It's there weighing down, pouring sand into the engine of life. Those are the things, and all of those little foxes seem to spring out of those. They take away our peace of mind. So what do we do? Well, the short answer is to be like Jesus. That sounds simplistic, doesn't it? If only we could just do that. It's Saturday morning. I have the place all to myself. And for me, the answer, what do we do, always means heading to the Bible. But this morning I felt like I just needed to go back to my memory work before I started actually reading my devotion. And that's when I found this wonderful piece of help. Psalm 126. It is called A Joyful Return to Zion. And it starts like this. When the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. Are you waiting for the Lord to give you an answer about something? Are you looking for relief from an ongoing issue? Are you burdened down with the cares of this world? Sometimes it's helpful just to sift through all those reasons for our captivity, if you will, and just make sure, do a check to see if there's an ongoing sin that we're not dealing with. That needs to be cared for before the Lord will turn our captivity. Just remember that. But then certainly, sometimes it's just God trying to strengthen our faith muscle. It goes on to say this. When the Lord brought back the captivity of Zion, we were like those who dream. Oh, what a beautiful picture. He goes on and says, then our mouth was filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Can't you just see this? Can't you see those people just dancing and singing and clapping and laughing? What a wonderful picture of relief. It finally happened. We won the election. The right decision was made. Our child actually made it to the toilet this time. The check finally came in the mail. The sickness finally abated. The job was complete. This is all a picture of hope. Hope and faith. We trust our God to do the right thing, even if it doesn't look like it's happening right now. I love the next part of the verse. It goes on in verse 2 to say this. Then they said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. When we are strong through our difficulties, our neighbors will notice. Our family will notice. Can we focus on all that God is doing in our lives, the little things, while we wait for Him to do the big things? This world is dying for an example of victorious Christian living. Can we do that? But wait a second, it's not done. Verse 3 says this, the Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad. The psalmist repeats the exact same words that the nation said. Now Israel is saying them too. They're remembering. Oh, how important it is for us to speak the truth in our hearts, to remember the good things, the great things that God has done for us, starting with that day that we found Him and He cleansed our souls and put us into His family, that day of salvation. Interesting enough, verse 4 goes on to say this. Bring back our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. The psalmist knows there's more work to be done. We're not ever going to be done with our mission until we see Christ. There's more captivity turned back. There's more people that need to hear and see the gospel in our lives. And there's certainly more issues in my life that need to be brought back, if you will, to be what God actually created me to be. And then the psalmist closes out the psalm with a very familiar passage. Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy. He who continually goes forth weeping, bearing seed for sowing, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. Now, that verse is a classic soul-winning verse. But I think we can use it for other issues in our lives as well. Do you weep over your children? Do you weep over your spouse? Do you weep over your church? Do you continually sow while you're weeping? Don't give up. Don't give up. You will have victory in God's time. I was listening to 2 Peter this morning, which says this, "But beloved, do not forget this one thing, that with the Lord, one day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." We are so impatient. At least I know I am so impatient. I want everything done yesterday. At least that's one of my major flaws. God is in no hurry. In fact, I heard someone say this: God is never late. He is never early. He is always right on time. That helps, doesn't it? He knows exactly what he's doing through the sunshine and through the shadow. And that makes me think of one of my favorite hymns, "My Father Planned It All." In fact, I wrote a tune to that years ago. Those words are by Harriet H. Peterson, and as is my norm, I tried to find something out about her, but you know what? There is very little known about her life. And there's another blessing. I need to live my life and do the work now. Will anyone remember Wanda McAvoy 100 years from now? I seriously doubt it. But that's not my goal. The goal is to live this day in the light of His Word, because I'm not promised tomorrow. And I think Paul had the right answer for any of our little trials. Romans 14:8. "For if we live to the Lord, and if we die to the Lord. Therefore, whether we live or die, we are the Lord's." Wow, what a great verse to end with. And so I say, I hope you have a good and godly day. Thanks for listening.